I do want to thank our co-sponsors for this event, along with the Center for Innovation and Entrepreneurship. The Rollins College of Business has supported us in this, and then UTC's Office of Multicultural Affairs. This is part of our Black History Month celebration, and we're so excited about this event today and can't wait to share our speaker with you. I'd like to start first, though, by introducing Dean Dooley. Dean Dooley is the dean of the Rollins College of Business here at UTC. So I'll pass it over to Dean Dooley.
I think I'm unmuted. Thank you, Libby. It's really good to see everyone here this afternoon. Thank you for joining us virtually for this event. It's a real privilege to be with you and be part of this Center for Innovation and Entrepreneurship UTC Black History Month event. You know, innovation and entrepreneurship and diversity and inclusion go hand in hand. And, you know, if you look at the research, study after study shows that diverse and inclusive workplaces foster expanded creativity and problem solving, better decision making, enhanced employment engagement and retention, and increased profitability and productivity. And these benefits are crucial to so many businesses, but they're equally as crucial to startups and give them a great advantage. In the Rollins College, we're committed to diversity and inclusion, and we continue to look for ways to improve our culture for our students, faculty, and staff. Part of that ongoing commitment, we recently named Dr. Gail Dawson as Director of Diversity and Inclusion for the college. And I believe I saw Gail on here earlier. She's with us today. And she has launched a number of new initiatives and programs to help facilitate discussions around the many aspects of diversity and inclusion. This spring, we will be conducting a climate survey in the college to better understand the opportunities and challenges we have with our students, faculty, and staff. Our faculty, and Dr. Dawson is one of the researchers on this study, but our faculty also engage in research that explores diversity and inclusion. One of her papers, along with another faculty member, Dr. Catherine Carl, recently published a study examining natural Black hair bias in the workplace. We have other faculty that look at diversity practices in various forms of organizational performance, such as creativity and innovation. We also want to continue to offer programming like these Entrepreneurship Watch and Learn events to highlight entrepreneurs, their businesses, and their unique entrepreneurial journeys to inspire our students and our community. Thank you, Libby, to the Center for Innovation and Entrepreneurship and to the UTC Office of Multicultural Affairs for making today's event possible. And I will turn it back over to you.
Thank you very much. Appreciate the introduction, and I'm excited about all the great things that are going on within the Rollins College of Business and at UTC. So I'm super excited to introduce our guest speaker. She and I both went to Georgia Tech, so go Yellow Jackets. And when I first learned about Candace, I just knew that I had to get her involved with what we were doing here at UTC. And I know after you listen to her speak, you'll feel the same way too. So let me give you a little background on Candace. She is the founder of Myavana, which is a high-tech hair care company. Myavana is an Atlanta-based personalized hair care service that recommends products and services based on scientific analysis of a consumer's hair type and texture. Candace has been named on the Forbes 30 Under 30 list, Women's Wear Daily Top 50 Beauty Innovators Under 40, BET's Next in Class STEM Award winner, and a Sephora Accelerate Beauty Entrepreneur Fellow. Candace currently serves as the Entrepreneur in Residence and Program Manager for Ascend Atlanta, a technology startup and small business support ecosystem for minority-led companies throughout metropolitan Atlanta. Candace holds a computer science degree from Georgia Tech. And with that, I will pass it over to Candace.
Awesome. Good afternoon, everyone. I'm excited that you all are here today. Thank you again to the University of Tennessee, Libby, and the whole college for inviting me to come share my story today. And my goal really is just to give you a front seat view on what it's like to build an innovative company, and also the intersection of innovation and entrepreneurship, and hopefully provide some words of wisdom and lessons that can help you get started in your journey as well. So I am actually going to share my screen. And if someone in the chat could give me a thumbs up that you can see my screen okay, and I will dive right in. So let me know if we're looking good.
You look great.
Okay, awesome. All right, so the title of my talk today is From Problem Solver to Pioneer: How Taking the Road Less Traveled Led to Transforming the Hair and Beauty Industry. So what I'm going to cover today is, again, my personal story of becoming an entrepreneur, building a company as a first-time entrepreneur, blending the fields of beauty and technology, and the qualities of being a trailblazer and innovator, because it's definitely difficult, but it can unlock a lot of value and more than you can even imagine. And so my story actually starts right in college, just like where you are. So this picture on the right is actually my very first pitch when I was a senior at Georgia Tech. I had just started the process of going natural. So if you look at this photo, my hair looks completely different, right? It's straight, it's thinner, and I was honestly trying to figure out what products are best to use for my type of hair. And so I actually asked my roommates, my mother, my sisters, my friends, and everyone gave me a different answer, because everything was just whatever they were using at the time. A lot of them were showing me bathroom counters full of products, and it was a very inefficient process to know what works for your hair. And it was much like a trial and error process. You buy it, you use it, does it work? No, and you're on to the next product. And so for me, that was a huge problem for me, because one, my hair started becoming damaged from using the wrong products. And also, who has the money and the time to waste on finding what works? And so for me, I thought, how can I solve this problem? And my background happens to be in software development. So my light bulb moment was, I wish there was an app that could just tell me which products are best to use for my hair. And it was almost like God heard my prayers, because the next day I got an email from the College of Computing at Georgia Tech about the Inventure Prize, which is a competition for you to come pitch an idea and create the next big invention. So I thought to myself, maybe I should go after this. Maybe I should try to figure this out and see if it could work. And so I applied to pitch, and I actually made it to the semifinals. I went on a journey of contacting every professor that I knew to understand how can I do some research on the science of hair. And thousands of hair strands later, I was able to come up with a prototype that takes the data from different products, the hair care attributes from different products, and it can match it with the different attributes of your hair, because obviously there are a lot of variables involved. So this is my first pitch. The product was called Hair Tech, and my tagline was "No more bad hair days." And so about a year later, I ended up making to the semifinals. I had a dilemma that I could either pass my computer graphics class or put more time towards this project, and I needed to graduate. And so I said, I'll pick this up again later. And
Are you hungry, Elijah?
I went on to graduate from tech. But a year later, I was actually recruiting for my company at Georgia Tech, and I ran into my professor who taught me algorithms and entrepreneurship. And he is actually the one who started the Inventure Prize. So we're in Starbucks one day, and he asked me, "What's up with that hair idea? I think you were onto something." And at the time, I was just working on it, on the weekends here and there. And he encouraged me to pick up the idea again. And so he told me that he was starting one of the first tech startup accelerator programs. And he actually took me to the space. It was a big co-working space at the top of a building in Tech Square. And he encouraged me to apply. And so I did, and I got accepted to the program. And I decided to quit my full-time job. I was working at Pepsi at the time in the IT division. And I decided to quit my job and pursue this idea full-time. And so this actually gave me a huge opportunity. Through Flashpoint, I was able to get my first investment and basically figure out how to bring this idea to life. And so that was my first step towards making this happen. And so some pointers about this stage that stick with me today is to start early. The fact that I started when I did actually put me in the most perfect timing for my business now and where technology is now for us to be market leaders, but also be in position to really capitalize on how much personalization is transforming this industry. And I'll talk more about that. But how many of you all know that it takes a while for technology to evolve, right? And so a lot of innovation, when we think about innovation, a lot of that is technology based. And so at that time, I wanted to be able to just take a picture of my hair and allow the app to tell me what to use. But technology was nowhere near where it needed to be yet. You know, we're just really tapping into the full wonders of what AI technology can do, machine learning, and the whole nine. But if I didn't start then, and yes, it has been almost a 10-year journey, but how many of you all know that it takes 10 years to become an overnight success? Some of you guys may have heard that quote before. And so now I'm like, oh, this is what they mean. If I count all the years from college, yeah, almost 10 years. And it sounds like a long time, but it's a process and a journey that if you just evolve and continue to put your best foot forward, it seems like it's an overnight success. Also, lean on your professors. So they're actually such a huge resource when it comes for research, knowledge, leaning on your professors. And I actually, when I started my journey through college, I was very shy, very quiet. I didn't really speak up in class. I hardly went to the TAs. But as I got older and when I really needed help, I learned how to come out of my comfort zone and actually form relationships with professors. And that actually opened a lot of doors. And later I'll share about how we got our first lab space because that came through the Dean of Engineering at Georgia Tech. And so relationships are so important. Lean on your professors and also be resourceful, because I didn't have a lot of money to do this, but when you're resourceful, you can get the things that you need to make progress. And so a few months later, I was able to officially launch my company. And I wanted to talk about how I was able to do this because a lot of people still, have questions about how to get started. And so, of course, it takes money to make money, right? I actually come from a family that was paycheck to paycheck. We, had some very hard financial times. And so the concept of money and gaining financial resources was very foreign to me. But thankfully, through mentors who were successful entrepreneurs and they were low-key millionaires, I was able to learn that money is a tool. So how do you get the tools to build your innovative idea, right? And so the three tools that actually allowed me to get my product into the market were angel investors, crowdfunding, and a family and friends round. So essentially, if you're starting with an idea, people can fund you with just an idea. Some people think that you have to have the whole shebang, you have to have the whole business plan, you have to have everything to even get financial resources. And that's just not true. At this stage, at the idea stage, people are going to invest in you, people are going to invest in your vision, and people are going to invest in your potential. So don't be afraid to put yourself out there and actually pitch what your vision is. And so thankfully, we were able to have some angel investors come on board. These were local entrepreneurs have built their businesses for a few decades. So they were much older. They were able to provide guidance as well. And they were willing to invest in a promising entrepreneur. We also did some crowdfunding. So the crowdfunding landscape has changed tremendously even since I started. We did an Indiegogo campaign, which is similar to Kickstarter. So you can raise money and you actually just give perks and early access to your product. So we were able to raise $25,000 that way. But now the regulations have changed where you can actually crowdfund for equity too. So there are tons of resources like Start Engine, Republic, that are actually making this happen. I have peers that have raised millions of dollars using this avenue. So that's another way. A third way is we did do a family and friends round too. So I actually got my parents, my aunts and uncles on the phone, my cousins, and I got them on a conference call and I shared that, I have this innovative idea that I want to bring to market and I would like to know if anyone would be interested in investing. And so again, just by pitching and having the confidence to put yourself out there, you can bring in resources to really launch. And so about a year in, we were able to get our product to market. I actually ended up being on the homepage of the Georgia Tech website, which is very fun experience. This point is really about putting your story out there. And so I was actually able to build my first initial set of customers just through articles, press articles that came out online. And so people will read the articles, come to my website and buy our product. And so I'm very thankful for every person, every media source that told our story because it allowed us to really build our business. So the next step was building a team. I recruited chemical engineers from Georgia Tech, biologists from Spelman, hairstylists from local salons in Atlanta, and we started to figure it out. And then the next surprising moment was being on the Forbes 30 under 30 list. And so again, by starting early, people kind of like to favor the underdog or, the young entrepreneur. And so my advice there is to use every angle you can to get the support that you need. And so this was a huge moment for me because it really solidified that this vision I had was actually bringing innovation to the market. And so being in the retail and e-commerce category showed me that we were innovating the way that consumers shop through personalized recommendations. And that's exactly what this said, reinventing how we shop online and off. And so I could never put language to what I was doing. I just knew that I had a problem and I had an innovative way to solve it. And so I was just working, but what was starting to happen around me was that this industry was starting to take shape. And so it started in mostly fashion, and really just e-commerce, period. It really started to really gain momentum through just different ways of shopping. And through incorporating personalized data, they were able to, a lot of businesses were able to target consumers in specific ways. So the fact that we have all this data about consumers' hair, we know exactly how to target or how to recommend the products that are actually going to work. And so what happened from here is that it opened up a whole new customer segment of not just consumers, but also hair care brands. And so now hair care brands want to use our recommendation system to reach the consumers that are a perfect match for their products based on our data. And so again, this is my first time, this is my first company. And so I was paying attention to patterns and where the demand was shifting. And so the thing about being an innovator is you may not necessarily have a blueprint for what your business model should be. You can do your research and find similar companies, but your business model is always going to evolve. And so I think I initially thought that we would be maybe like an e-commerce store and sell hair products, but actually what was most valuable is the data that we have on consumers and how we can improve their hair care experience by guiding them and recommending the best products, and then how we can position the brands to be right there on their journey when they need their product. And so again, this is like learning real time, innovating real time. And then my position as a founder started to become solidified. And so again, I'm just working and figuring this out, right? I would start to get emails like out of the blue. So the Forbes 30 under 30 story happened because I got an email from somebody that said, hey, somebody nominated you for this list. And I was actually at the gym at the time. I was like, what? I was like, great. And they just asked for my information and then it happened. And then the next email I got was from BET. And they were like, oh, someone nominated you as a leader in the STEM field, blending the fields of beauty and technology, and, tell all your social media followers to vote for you. And so I was like, okay, great. And so my point here is that as you do the work, put yourself out there, you start to become a magnet for all types of opportunities. And so you really don't have to worry about going after all these opportunities that you think you should be doing. It'll actually start coming to you. And so I always want to remind founders to keep your head in the right place. And your head always needs to be at the point of, am I solving this problem for my customers in the best way? That's all you have to figure out. If you figure out one thing, like one big problem to solve, that can be $1 billion business. And so if you stay focused on that, the opportunities will come. And so I actually tell founders, don't worry about getting press, don't get a PR agent, don't hire a PR firm. It's all a waste of money. And I know like it sounds contradictory because now, especially if you're like very ingrained in the tech world and just the entrepreneur world, everyone is posting about, when they're featured in this article and doing this and doing that. And so there's kind of like a hype side to entrepreneurship, but don't get caught up in the hype. Again, stay focused on the problem that you're solving, and the opportunity and the exposure will come. And so the last amazing email that I got during this specific time period of launching was actually from CNN. And so I got an email saying, hey, we heard about your company. We want to feature you on this small business success story. And so this is where I could actually, when people would ask me what I'm doing, being an engineer, I would use all these technical terms and have a whole lecture about hair and variables and products and the whole nine. And I would get caught up in not knowing how to explain what I'm doing, in a succinct way. Like if you're on an elevator, what's your elevator pitch? And when I saw this headline, I was like, thank you, this is it. I am solving hair problems through science. And so that became like my tagline to explain what it was that I'm doing. Because when you're an innovator, it's hard to explain it because you may have the full picture in your head, but the average person is not going to get it because you're 10 years ahead in this market. They have no idea. The average person cannot understand a visionary. They have no idea what you're even talking about. Like if back in the Blockbuster days, if you would say, oh, I'm just going to stream that at home online, people would be like, what are you talking about? But now everything is Netflix. Everything is streaming platforms, right? And so again, like being an innovator, you have to be able to, again, like articulate what you're doing enough to get people interested. And so if I say I'm solving hair problems with science, they're like, oh, with science, tell me more. That's all you need to, you just have to develop your hook to bring people in, to share what you're doing. That's like the best thing, the best skill an entrepreneur can learn is like a little sales skills, little ways to like effectively sell what you're doing. That also becomes a very great quality for a CEO, knowing how to sell. That's your main objective. And so my learnings at this stage and really understand that, oh, wow, I'm really pioneering a new sector in this market is talk to customers, talk to your customers, talk to the people who you think you're solving your problem for, talk to the people that are interested in what you're doing, because I was able to really understand like, oh, I think the product should be XYZ, but when I talk to my customer, they may say, oh, it's ABC. And so I'm like, oh, I never saw it that way. Or wow, maybe we should dive into this more. And so you'll get your best feedback from your customers, not your friends or your family, because they're going to want to tell you, that, oh, this is great. Like they're not going to want to hurt your feelings. And so we talked to over 1,000 customers before we even released our products publicly. You have to learn from your failures. So I've failed multiple times. But there's a lesson in every failure. And so the key is to not let the failure make you stop or quit. You just have to learn from it and apply it. And that continues through your whole entrepreneur journey. And also stay persistent. So you guys probably have already heard this, but you're going to get several no's before you get a yes. But that one yes could be the big thing that changes your whole entire career. And so you have to stay persistent. And so now we're immersed into our world of hair science. This is actually a photo of our first lab space. This is one of our hair analysts. And actually what we're able to do is break down the structure of your hair. So this is actually a photo of a real hair strand. This is what your hair looks like under a microscope. And so there's so many variables involved, like the cuticle layer of the hair. This hair strand has product buildup, its texture, its type, it's again, so many variables. And going back to my story earlier, we were able to get our first lab space through me reaching out to the Dean of Engineering at Georgia Tech. And so our first lab space was in the nanotechnology building, and it gave us access to state-of-the-art equipment to do microscopic hair analysis. So this is actually how we were able to launch our company and have the resources that we needed to execute. Where we are today, to explain how Myavana works, we send you a hair kit in the mail. You comb your hair, send your hair strands to our lab in that picture that I just showed you. We analyze your hair, tell you all the characteristics about it, what your hair needs, what you should stay away from, and we give you a personalized hair care plan with recommended products, ingredients, and regimens to help you reach your hair goals. And so this is all digital. You get a hair profile in our mobile app as well as online. And we can give you real-time recommendations from there. So anytime you change your hair, we can tell you what to use next. And we're really just about empowering women on their hair journey. Because when a woman changes their hair, something is happening in their life. And so that is kind of like a thing we love to tap into with our customer base. And for the guys in the room, yes, we do have some male customers too. So that has been fun. A lot of men wear curly hair now. We've done beard analysis. A lot of men like to wear beards. I haven't yet solved for baldness, so you'll have to come back to me on that, but we get that question a lot of times. Some of my mentors ask me, oh, can you fix this? And we haven't quite solved for that yet. But yes, we love this world of hair care and hair science. Our customers do a virtual consultation with our team of hair experts, and they have their best hair days ever. So remember going back to my very first tagline, no more bad hair days. Well, what's interesting is, you know, with the natural hair movement and how hair has become such a political statement, it's very interesting of how our own self-expression now has gained an audience about what they feel is acceptable or not in the workplace or wherever they deem to feel like they could regulate what our hair is like. But at our company, we empower people to wear their hair how they like it, how their hair grows naturally, and to just really be yourself confidently. And so it's interesting to see how things like the Crown Act has developed to really have a policy in place that, yes, people can actually wear their hair the way they want to. And so again, all of this is taking place as our business has grown. And so it's been a very interesting journey to see how all of this affects, you know, our whole market landscape. One fun thing is I've also been able to attract some celebrity ambassadors for my business. And so again, another email that led to an email. And so this is how we were able to really increase our audience to multi-millions of people. And so I suggest to think about who are ambassadors in your market that can influence potential customers to come your way. And don't be afraid to reach out. You'd be surprised at the type of responses that you could get if you just put yourself out there. So this actually just happened last year, and now we're kind of pioneering this world of virtual hair care because, you know, we were all quarantined for the past year when all of that happened last year and salons were closed. And so we actually started consulting women virtually. And that has actually become a really big part of our business. So again, as the market changes, you just figure out how to adopt and adapt. But again, being a pioneer and an innovator and actually approaching this problem through technology, we were already positioned to really capitalize on how the market is changing. And now we're in a whole virtual world. And so I want to kind of leave some pointers about the key to innovation, right? One of the first things is passion. So I could literally stay on here with you guys all day and talk about hair. That's how much I love it. That's how much I love really just figuring out everything we possibly can about our products, our market, our customers, technology. Like, you have to really live it, love it, breathe it. And so the whole reason why I started exploring this idea was because I was actually sitting in class one day. I believe it was a database structures class, and I was so unengaged. I was so disconnected. I think I was like the only No, I was the only woman in my class, the only Black person in my class. And I was really considering, like, do I even belong in this field? And so it just dawned on me that if I could apply this, if I could apply computer science to something that I'm passionate about, then, you know, maybe I could have a light bulb moment. Maybe that could give me the energy and the fuel to really kind of see this all in a different way. So that was actually one of the turning points in my college experience that made me think about how do I apply computer science to something that I'm actually passionate about, and not just zeros and ones. Like, how can I actually apply this? And so my passion led me to a place that really, really was a turning point, and allowed me to actually finish my degree and actually feel excited about what I was learning, what I was building. And so when you get into business, it is the same way. You're going to hit a wall. You're going to feel like a failure sometimes, just to be real. You're going to feel like nothing's working. You're going to feel like you're not moving fast enough. But your passion is always going to see you through. Your passion is going to help you get up the next morning and try to figure it out again and again and again. And so think about, you know, how you can apply your passions in an innovative way. And you have to practice this every day. You have to practice this every single day. And so, you know, I kind of like to think about athletes when I think about entrepreneurship as a practice. If you watch, let's say if you watch the Last Dance documentary about Michael Jordan, or if you ever study any of the great athletes, Serena Williams, Kobe Bryant, anybody, right? What are they always doing? They're practicing. Like, I think I saw one episode, they won the championship, but they still went to practice the next day. And so I like to think about it as also like building my muscles, like building my experience, my faith muscles, my sales muscles, my finance muscles. Like, there's so many things that you have to know how to do as an entrepreneur, especially in the very early stages. And so again, it has to be something that you're willing to do every day, and you enjoy doing it every day. And the last thing I'll share is perspective. And so an innovator's journey, again, is you have to see the big picture, and you have to be able to be in it for the long term. And so, of course, you know, an entrepreneur's job is to make money, right? Like, you solve problems that people will pay for. But if you're only in it for money, you know, there are a lot of businesses that you can do to make money, right? That doesn't take the time and resources to actually innovate a market or bring something unique and different to your potential customers. So perspective is being in it for the long term, and understanding that even if I'm having a challenging time right now, having this breakthrough could actually put me in a position of success, like for the next few decades, right? So you have to be able to see the long-term perspective. I had some initial challenges with, you know, people on our team who would get so caught up in what's happening in the short term, or what's happening right now. This isn't working. This isn't working. This isn't working. This isn't working. So there are going to be so many things that are not working, but if that's all you can see and you can't have a long-term perspective, then you're not going to make it. And it's going to be easier just to give up. And so you have to keep a long-term perspective to really endure the entrepreneurship journey, because it takes a while. I think that one of the statistics that one of our investors shared was 3% of startup companies make it out of year 3 of their business, meaning 97% of startups die within the first 3 years. And so I think I was on year 4 at the time, 4 or 5. And so that gave me perspective, right? Like, it didn't matter the challenge I was facing. Like, my perspective was that, wow, I've gone further than 97% of startup companies. So I must be figuring out something, right? And so perspective is important to keep, and especially as a Black woman. The statistics, when you hear like the statistics about entrepreneurship, it's typically about the broad general market, right? But as you drill down and you look at women, the statistics are normally lower. And then when you look at Black people, it's even lower. When you look at Black women, it's pretty much non-existent. And so again, perspective. How do I push forward against all of these odds? You know, how do I stay resourceful? How do I gain a lesson out of every day that's going to inspire me to keep going? If you can keep the right perspective, then you won't be so defeated when you're battling against all of these odds. So when I first started raising money for my company, I did not realize that the statistics were so bleak. I just thought that, man, they don't understand what we're doing. And actually a lot of them probably didn't. They probably didn't. I think when I did my first pitch, you know, the panel of judges were all older white men who were bald. I mean, they could not relate to me or natural hair or the hair care industry, which is a $500 billion market. So once I said those numbers, they're like, oh, tell me more. But again, like, I spent about 18 months trying to raise venture capital and nothing was working. And so again, perspective, now all of this data and research is coming out that's actually showing you why it's so hard to gain access to capital for women and minorities, period. And so again, there's so many challenges out there. There's a lot that we're up against, but if you can keep the right perspective, you can really succeed against all odds. And so that's my motivation. That's what keeps me going every day. And that's how I was able to grow from problem solver to pioneer. So thank you guys for allowing me to share my story. We do have some time. I would love to hear any of your questions, anything that I can possibly share as you think about your path to innovation and entrepreneurship.
Thank you so much, Candace. That was really awesome. And as a professor, for you to reinforce everything all of the entrepreneurship professors are trying to teach here at UTC, you did a fantastic job, from building your network to dealing with failures to making sure you have a passion that can sustain you. So certainly appreciate that. And while folks are thinking about questions they might have, you can either put them in the chat, or you can, as soon as someone finishes talking, you can just unmute yourself and ask it. But I'll kick it off because I'm fascinated by one area that we talk about a lot in entrepreneurship is kind of calculating your affordable loss. And that's just, you know, I'm willing to give up this in order to pursue my dream. And making that change from PepsiCo to, which I'm sure was a great job to have, and I'm sure they really wanted to have you as an employee. How did you talk about that change with your family members or your friends to help them understand why you needed to make that change?
Right, that's a very great question. What I failed to mention was everyone called me a traitor because I'm from Atlanta, which is the world of Coca-Cola. But I actually took this job because I was recruited. The CEO of the company at the time was Dooley, a minority woman, very powerful businesswoman, and I wanted to learn under her. But when I started to tell my family and friends that I was preparing to walk away from that, what I really emphasized was that, number one, I'm 24 years old. I can get a job again. Like, now is the time for me to really go after what my dreams are. And the cost analysis there is, you know, I could live on my savings for a few years and end up building a business that's 100 times more than anything I've ever made if I can make sacrifices now to try to figure this out. And so the main thing was sacrifice, understanding, and I actually, you know, first had to talk to my parents because my parents, you know, first of all, I took that job for them, you know, because I was able to progress further than they ever had, and, you know, opening doors for my family and things of that nature. But my grandparents were entrepreneurs, and they understood that if I have an opportunity like this that doesn't come so often, that I should really go after it. And another reason why I had to explain that is because I was coming back home to stay at their house. So I actually ended up staying with my parents for 3 years, starting my company. I had a mattress on my mom's living room, and I just said, hey, I'm figuring it out. You know, I'll eat ramen noodles. Like, it was a sacrifice. And so I think that when you emphasize what you can gain instead of what you're losing, what you're potentially losing, you know, it's so much more. It's so much more, you know, and you can get a job at any time, but you don't always have the opportunity to go after your dreams. And so that's what really allowed them to welcome me home with open arms and, you know, helping, you know, support me to figure it out.
Awesome. We do have a few questions in the chat. I'll read the first one to you. How were you able to pay your initial employees as a startup?
Oh, very great question. So, what we did, again, so I did have to raise some initial money, right? So we kind of worked our way up. We started with interns, right? So we were able to pay our interns a stipend. And I'll clarify that as a co-founder, I did not get paid. I didn't have a salary yet. So all the money we raised, we were paying the people who were on our team. So we provided stipends to interns. And then actually, when we got our first customer, we hired our first full-time employee. And so I think you should use capital to figure out your business model and figure out your path to consistent customers. So don't hire anyone until you as the founder can figure that out. Because when you're operating just on the capital alone, the capital is going to run out at some point. So you need a way to develop a method for money coming back in, so getting customers back in. And so when we actually got our first customer, it gave me the confidence, okay, we can start bringing other team members on. And so some of that pay for our first employee came from that initial capital, but then it came from customers. So really kind of figure out that piece first before you start to hire a lot of people. Because when you figure that out first, you actually know who to hire and what they should be working on. So whatever allowed you to get that customer, you should hire someone to help you keep that customer and keep more customers coming. So hopefully that answers your question.
Great. The next question, does the Myavana hair analysis work for any textured hair?
Yes, it does. We specialize in all textures. So actually, we create a hair ID for every customer, which represents your unique combination of hair, which is texture, type, and condition. And so we actually have determined over 972 combinations. And so that ranges from fine, medium, and coarse hair, straight, wavy, curly, coily, kinky hair, high porosity, low porosity, thick hair, thin hair, the whole nine. So we can analyze anyone's hair.
Wow, amazing. Question about privacy issues. How do you deal with potential privacy issues that may result from hair sample collections and resulting data?
Great question. So we use a secure lab space, so every hair sample is disposed of properly. And so we have to have a controlled lab setting to be able to do that. A setting that runs off of certain standards when it comes to protecting the things that are analyzed or researched in that lab. And so one, that is what we promise, and two, we never we don't store any personal identifiable data either. And so everything is just it's secured, our servers are secured, so we do have like security protocols that we have to follow as well.
Okay. And I sense the next question is from a potential customer. So what is the rate at which customers find that the recommended products really made a change in the health or growth of their hair?
Very great question. So on average, it's about 3 months. And so it's about 3 months of using the products consistently, using the products the right way. So half the battle is a lot of people don't use products the right way. They're using too much or not using the right kind, and actually following the regimens. And so part of having healthy hair is how you take care of it. And so the customers we get, they're kind of over being product junkies. They're over just, laying down and not really taking care of their hair and things of that nature. So by following the plan, our average, transformation time is within 3 months. So that's the typical time. And we actually have a membership model now where you can continue the journey after those 3 months with recommendations when you want to try new styles or things of that nature. So that's what we've seen across the board so far.
Great. Next question is, what software is used for the hair analysis, and also how is the data processed to determine the best ingredients? And that may be your secret sauce. I don't know if you can share that.
Right. So intellectual property is very important, right? And so I can, talk about it high level without sharing anything proprietary. So we actually have hair analysis equipment where our software is embedded in that, and that's how we're able to do our captures of the hair strand and record the data. The ingredient side actually has been years of research. So we actually maintain a database where we add our products, and we recommend products currently out on the market. So we add the products to the database and ingredients as well. So we've literally put in every single ingredient, everything you can think of, from coconut oil, jojoba oils, cedar oil, alcohol, everything. And we actually have a chief hair officer and cosmetologist on staff that actually look at the benefits of each ingredient. And so based on your hair, you're matched with ingredients that actually address the hair challenges that you may be having. And so we just actually maintain that database consistently, adding new raw ingredients that are discovered. I know a lot of you guys probably hear about like exotic raw ingredients that are now in skincare products, beauty products, a lot of different things. And so it's the process of just ongoing research.
Great. And one last question before we wrap. As a pioneer in this area, how difficult was it for you to get buy-in for the idea, and how did you go about pricing for something that has never been done?
Wow. Very great
That's two
question.
questions, sorry.
Yes. So getting the buy-in again, like going through a lot of no's, right? Sometimes it was hard to get buy-in because people just didn't really quite understand it yet. And so it kind of goes back to me learning how to articulate it, knowing how to sell it the right way. I remember within our first year, we met with L'Oreal in New York, and I was attempting to get their buy-in. And again, I just had to really be confident. A lot of buy-in comes from your soft skills, being confident, um, sharing what you know and being honest, because people really value those who are genuine and really truly offering value. So if you focus on the value that you provide, you're able to get buy-in that way. And for pricing, so yeah, I did not know how to go about pricing first. A couple ways I did it was, one, look at the costs that it takes to deliver our product. And so you need to be profitable, right? So you have to look at the costs, mark it up to where your costs are 50% or lower. And then that's the baseline of what your price should be. Now, something that came out that was similar to our product was 23andMe. So some of you guys may have heard that, where and all of the ancestry companies. So we were able to kind of look at the market and see how much are these DNA kits, because it's somewhat similar. We're not looking at your DNA, but we're still taking samples, right, into our lab. So I looked at that, and we were kind of in the same range. And so that's what helped me determine the price point. So you can look at competitive products and make sure that you're priced well, where you're not too expensive, so where they'll just buy from your competitor, but also you just need to make sure that your costs are covered too.
Well, we're about at the end of time, so I want to thank you so much, Candace, for spending the hour with us. I learned a lot by listening to you, and like I said before, thanks for reinforcing what we're trying to teach here. It was fantastic to have you here today. This would be the point in the presentation that I would hand you our complimentary Rollins College of Business coffee coffee mug. So I will get that to you sometime soon. And I want to thank the Rollins College of Business for their support, and also the Office of Multicultural Affairs for supporting this. We really appreciate it. And just remind everybody on the call that our March Watch and Learn is actually on March 16th at noon. And we will have the co-founder and CEO, Tim Pearson of Chattanooga Whiskey. So look for information on that. And I hope you all have a wonderful day. And once again, thanks so much, Candace. We really enjoyed it.